Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. Welcome to all of you to the fourth lecture of physics from unit 2 kinematics. The topic which I am teaching to you is the representation of vectors. Students, vectors can be represented in two ways: symbolic representation and graphical representation. Symbolic representation. Students, the word symbol literally means alphabets, either small or capital. And representation means to show. So, with the help of symbolic representation, instead of writing the whole name of the quantity, we use some symbols to represent them. For example, instead of writing the force, we use capital F to denote it. Instead of writing the distance, we write S. F and S are the symbols of force and distance respectively. And these symbols are the identity of these specific quantities. This F and S are not used to represent any other quantities. Students, all quantities, both scalars and vectors, are represented by symbols. But you know that vectors are different from scalars. Vectors has direction along with the magnitude. So the symbolic representation of vector is different from that of scalars. Symbolic representation of vectors. It is the way of naming any vector by using either capital or small letter. Symbolically, a vector is represented in three ways. First, by bold-faced letter. Second, by simple letter with an arrow above it. And this representation is used in our books. Third way, by simple letter with an arrow below it. Now, I am writing some examples of vectors and their symbolic representations. For example, velocity is a vector quantity. We can symbolically represent the velocity vector as either by bold face letter or by simple letter with an arrow over it, or by simple letter with an arrow below it. Another example of vector is acceleration. Acceleration can either be represented by a bold face letter A, small a, or by using a simple A with an arrow over it, or by using a simple A with an arrow below it. Next example of vector is force. Force is either represented by a bold face capital F, by simple capital F with an arrow over it, or simple capital F with an arrow below it. Next example is the momentum. Students, momentum is a vector quantity and it is represented either by small bold-faced letter P or simple small p with an arrow over it, or simple small p with an arrow below it. The next example is the displacement. We denote the displacement either with the capital bold face letter, with a simple capital S with an arrow over it, or simple S with the arrow below it. Students, this lecture is end here. Students, all the lectures which I have delivered to you, you all must learn them by heart. Thank you.